Welcome back to English Lit. In this lesson, we are looking at two opposite kinds of 18th century comedy. Sentimental comedy and anti-sentimental comedy. Or sometimes we call it the laughing comedy. So one tried to make audiences cry and the other one tried to make them laugh again. So by the end of this lesson, I think you'll be able to distinguish between sentimental comedy and anti-sentimental comedy in English theater. So here is our plan. In this lesson, I will compare between sentimental and anti-sentimental comedy. Before starting with this comparison, I will define two words that most students confuse: comedy and sentiment. After that, we'll go with the definitions, the historical background, and the defining characteristics, the themes, and the most common type of characters that we find in sentimental and anti-sentimental comedy. After that, I will introduce some of the dramatic techniques, and then we will get to know some of the major playwrights in both types and the key works that we can take as examples of sentimental and anti-sentimental comedy. By the end, I provide you with a table that includes a full comparison of both, the main points, of course. So let's get started. So the two words that confuse a lot of students. First, comedy in drama does not mean funny. So when I say I'm going to watch a comedy, it doesn't mean that I'm going to watch something funny. So a comedy is simply a play that ends happily, usually in marriage or reconciliation, or the problems are solved by the end of the play. So it is the opposite of the other main type of drama, which is tragedy, in which the play ends with something disastrous or something like the death of the character or the fall of the character. So the word comedy comes from Greek, which means reveal song. But it's the happy ending that makes a play a comedy. So remember, comedy means happy ending. So that is exactly why a tearful, serious play can still be called a comedy. You can watch a play and see the characters suffering or crying or facing many problems and struggle. Still, at the end, if it ends happily, it's a comedy. On the other hand, the word sentiment means to feel. It comes from Latin sentire, which means to feel. So in the 1700s, it meant a refined, tender, and often moral feeling. So sentimental comedy just means a happy ending play that appeals to the emotions. So sentimental comedy, a happy ending play that appeals to the emotion. So sentimental comedy is a serious, moralizing comedy from the early 1700s that replaces laughter with tender feeling. It puts virtuous middle-class characters through hardship to move the audience to sympathize and to provoke their tears. So, and it's only called a comedy because it ends happily, as I mentioned earlier. So, the French called it the weeping comedy. The weeping comedy. So the characters suffer a lot, and the audiences are supposed to cry and sympathize with the characters. However, the other part, anti-sentimental comedy, or as called the laughing comedy, is the revolt against the sentimental comedy. So in the 1770s, writers brought back wit, satire, and laughter, exposing human folly through ridicule instead of tears. Oliver Goldsmith, for example, named it the laughing comedy. So remember, sentimental comedy is the crying comedy, Anti-sentimental comedy is the laughing one. Now let's go with the historical background of both. Well, sentimental comedy grew up in early Georgian England, roughly the 1690s to the 1720s. It was a reaction against the rude, immoral comedy of the Restoration. And it was against Jeremy Collier's famous attack on the stage in the 1698. It suited a rising, respectable middle class and drew on the philosopher Lord Shaftesbury's belief that people are naturally good. As for the Victorian connection, that tearful and moralizing spirit later flowed straight into 19th century melodrama. We'll see it later. And the earnest domestic drama of the Victorian stage. On the other hand, anti-sentimental comedy appeared in the 1770s, and once this sentimental comedy became predictable, Oliver Goldsmith, and other playwrights wrote essays comparing between the laughing and the sentimental comedy or the weeping comedy, and it's considered as their manifesto. It revived the wit of the Restoration writers like William Congreve, and its witty tradition actually went quiet during the serious Victorian period, and only really returned in the 1890s with Oscar Wilde. So let's come now to the characteristics. So in sentimental comedy, virtue is tested and then rewarded. Always virtue is rewarded at the end. The tone is emotional, tearful, and openly moral. The heroes are almost too perfect. We see characters that never make mistakes. And everything ends in happy reconciliation, with very little laughter sometimes. On the other hand, in anti-sentimental comedy or in laughing comedy, uh, it exposes and ridiculous folly and vice. It's witty, satirical, and fast. The characters are flawed, like any human being, and lifelike. And the whole point is to make you laugh. So let's move on to the themes found in sentimental and anti-sentimental comedy. In sentimental comedy or in the weeping comedy, we see the victory of virtue and kindness. We see moral reform and repentance. We see topics related to love and family duty. The basic goodness of human nature is shown. On the contrary, in the laughing comedy or in the anti-sentimental comedy, we see the opposite. Hypocrisy and social pretension are unmasked, and the gap between how people seem and how they really are is exposed. So, courtship, scandal, and money are common topics in anti-sentimental comedy. Sometimes anti-sentimental comedy mocks sentimentality itself. Now, the character types. In sentimental comedy, we see the virtuous hero, the man of feeling, the pure but suffering heroine, the rake who repents, and the kind father or guardian. Laughing comedy, on the other hand, gives us the witty hero and the sharp-tongued heroine, and the vain fop, the smiling hypocrite, and the gossip, and the scandals, and the comic country square. Let's now start with the dramatic techniques or dramatic terms that we can find in both. In sentimental comedy, we see pathos. Pathos means moments that are designed to make us feel pity and tender sorrow. We see also moralizing speeches. In these moralizing speeches, we see virtuous lesson directly spoken to the audience. We see also distress and rescue. A good person suffers and is eventually saved. We see also tearful reconciliation, emotional scenes of forgiveness, and similar techniques. On the other hand, in anti-sentimental comedy or the laughing comedy, we see wit and we see irony, satire, and mistaken identity. So, for irony, when we see characters saying one thing while meaning the opposite or meaning something else. Uh, by satire, we mean to make fun of a certain situation or a certain rule to expose folly and vice. And some of the common scenes or common characteristics found in anti-sentimental comedy is the mistaken identity. This term or this technique uh, like produces comic confusion and reversal. Now let's talk about the emotional contract. So when I say contract, what do I mean? The contract is between the playwright and the audience. Both types, the sentimental and the anti-sentimental comedy, their names are taken from the relationship between the author and his or her play and the audience. So, in sentimental comedy, the playwright indirectly says that you as audience you will be moved to tears and you will leave as a better person. So sentimental comedy will move your emotions and will make you cry, but it will transform you into a better person after you leave the play. So it wants your sympathy and warm glow of reassurance. The laughing comedy, on the opposite, or the anti-sentimental comedy, it says to the audience, you will laugh at human folly, not weep over human goodness. So, anti-sentimental comedy wants your critical eye and it sends you out a little sharper about the world. So, let's now move to the major playwrights. In sentimental comedy, we have Sir Richard Steele, Colley Cibber, Hugh Kelly, and Richard Cumberland. The laughing comedy, we have Oliver Goldsmith and Richard Sheridan. These are the most famous two names, Oliver and Richard. So these two writers drove the whole revival. That is why we call them the two-man revival. The entire movement rests mainly on those two playwrights, Oliver Goldsmith and Richard Sheridan. Let's move now with the major works that represent or can be given as examples for sentimental and anti-sentimental comedy. So, for sentimental comedy, Steele's The Conscious Lovers, Colley Cibber's Love's Last Shift, and Kelly's False Delicacy, and Richard Cumberland's The West Indian. For anti-sentimental comedy, the best examples, She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith and also The Good-Natured Man. And for Richard Sheridan, we have The Rivals and The School for Scandal are among the best examples of anti-sentimental comedy. To make sure we understand anti-sentimental and sentimental comedy, I provided you here with a scene from Steele's play as a sentimental comedy example and another scene from The School for Scandal by Sheridan as an example for the laughing comedy. Here you can pause the video or you can screenshot this slide. I will just comment on both. In the sentimental comedy scene, the audience are moved to admire the virtue, not to laugh. They are supposed to cry and sympathize. In the other one, in The School for Scandal, the hypocrisy is exposed and the hypocrite is destroyed by laughter, not by tears. Both the sentimental and anti-sentimental comedy had their influence and legacy that affected drama later after the 18th century. So, sentimental comedy shaped 19th century's melodrama and the earnest domestic drama of the Victorian stage. The laughing comedy also kept the comedy of manners tradition alive and pointed to hypocrisies in societies, and also it continued its influence up to the time of Oscar Wilde and other playwrights. So as a conclusion, and before we move to the last slide of comparison, we can say that sentimental comedy asked audiences to weep at virtue. On the other hand, anti-sentimental comedy asked them to laugh at folly. Together, they are really a debate about what comedy is for, moral feeling or corrective laughter. Oliver Goldsmith and Richard Sheridan won the stage back for laughter, but the sentimental impulse never truly died. So let's recap. The aim of sentimental comedy is to move the audience to tears and give a moral lesson. On the other hand, anti-sentimental comedy provokes laughter. The tone of sentimental comedy is serious, moral, and tender. In anti-sentimental comedy, it is witty, satirical, and lively. The characters in sentimental comedy are idealized and virtuous. On the other hand, in anti-sentimental comedy, they are flawed and lifelike. The period sentimental comedy started before, circa 1690s till the 1760s, and the anti-sentimental comedy approximately started in the 1770s. The key writers for sentimental comedy are Richard Steele and Richard Cumberland. For anti-sentimental comedy, the most two important names, Oliver Goldsmith and Richard Sheridan. The legacy, sentimental comedy represented or shaped Victorian melodrama, and anti-sentimental comedy kept the tradition of the comedy of manners and affected later playwrights like Oscar Wilde. I hope this lesson was useful. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.